Hello and welcome to the one, the only Gaming Booth Podcast, Episode 3, where this time, with the multiverse is connected more than ever because Jordan is joining us. Not the original Jordan we know, but one from 48F. Hello, Jordan.
48F is the place to be, where black and white is real life. We are all colorblind, in color and in screen.
It's pretty terrible. We might visit your actual world eventually, but for now we have to introduce one from my own reality, which is Russell.
The best universe, the only universe.
It is. I know, we just need this backup, Jordan. I mean, clearly inferior from the original.
Clearly.
We have to deal with his little issues with the colour problem, which doesn't quite translate over to us.
At least I haven't got a big green blob on my face anymore.
Yeah, that's Earth
Those things are
48,
terrifying in this dimension.
489, rather. But yeah, so to kind of start off this podcast, I wanted to kind of start it by talking about a specific little question about our favourite games. Now, it's not about what your favourite game is, it's about a part of one of your favourite games you simply can't stand.
Well, it is the Master Chief Collection. They don't hate it because it's a bad game, but because of how it was implemented.
Yeah, how 343 murdered their biggest franchise in front of the world. But go on.
Pretty much before Halo 5. Murdered them all.
That came later, yeah.
Yeah. So, yep. We're just talking about campaign, not talking about multiplayer. That doesn't exist in this game. But it's one of my favorite games for the story of Master Chief. But one feature that really sucks is anytime you want to go to a terminal, it'll kick you out of the game and go to a different app to watch.
So, John, what is a terminal for people who are unfamiliar?
A terminal is like a thing that you find, like a collectible in the world that you find that you click and then it'll show you a video or something. Except with this, you have to go onto the Halo channel to watch that video, and then go back to
Yeah, and weren't these originally just part of the game? Like, you didn't have to leave and go to a separate app?
In Halo 3, they were. They were part of the game. And then in Halo 4, they had the Halo Waypoint app. And then in the Master Chief Collection, they got rid of the Waypoint app and went with the Halo channel.
It's funny, these two things are bringing to mind. I didn't know this really for the Halo collection, but it brings to mind two things on Xbox that they also did that's almost exactly the same that I disliked. One being the Rare Collection, where you get the Rare Collection, then you have to download every game separately after you've already put the disc in.
Apart from a specific few.
Yeah, most of them you have to download, which was annoying. And the other one I'm thinking of is Quantum Break, where they had all those FMV movie like cutscenes that you had to also download separately.
They did,
and I'm
yeah.
And both of which annoyed the hell out of me had to do that, and I was definitely disliked it for Halo, but it just to me, I'm like, it's weird that they're all Xbox games. Like, Xbox seems to be happy to do that.
It's very weird that they do that, and it's kind of very jarring because, like, the Halo 3 one doesn't show much. It's just a bunch of lines and text and, like, little hints about stuff. It's not like... It's like, why not just keep that in the game? Because it was that early era of this gen where it's like, we have apps now. Why don't you go to the app and do it? It's just like, come on.
The other main issue with it as well is the fact that it doesn't pause your game when you go into it. So if you accidentally click it while you're fighting stuff, you'll come back and you'll be dead.
Oh, what the hell? That's like double bad. That's so weird. Because what I was thinking is like, all I can think of is the remnants of the start of the generation, because they were so focused on always online that they were already being set up. So I imagine these tentpoles were in there, especially because it just seems weird that they're Xbox exclusive games, and they're there, but then they pushed back, so it didn't make as much sense anymore. But it's annoying, definitely annoying.
You know, it's so stupid. But Russell, what's yours?
For me, a series I love very dearly, with plenty of options in that franchise, and that's Kingdom Hearts.
I saw this coming.
in particular, I would go with Kingdom Hearts 2. Atlantica World, which is infamously very unpopular with a lot of people, because you go to Little Mermaid's world, and in the previous game, Kingdom Hearts 1, it was a fully playable world. Very unpopular because you have to swim, and people didn't like the swim mechanics. I didn't mind it in that game, though. Yeah, I didn't mind it in the first one, though. But in the second one, it's full-on a musical world. Like, literally a musical. So it becomes a rhythm game, like Parappa the Rapper, or any of those kind of fully dedicated rhythm game. And it plays most of the songs, or most of the key songs from like Little Mermaid, so like Under the Sea, and you have to like hit along to the music. But it's also re-recorded versions of them that are like worse than the ones that are in the movie. And on top of that, like the funniest thing about the world, as much as I dislike it and how kind of like pointless it is overall, is the fact that like Donald and Goofy sing like some of the songs. So just imagine Donald and Goofy's like ridiculous voice singing like Under the Sea and that kind of
Now,
stuff.
Russell, You have just sold me on Kingdom Hearts 2 because I need to witness this.
It's that's maybe the only positive. It's like you go and like, this is so bad and so weird, but at the same time, as you said, it's like, it's weird. I gotta see it. I gotta see it.
I've got to know what that is.
I pray to God that Kingdom Hearts 3 does not have any weird musical world, because there has been other Kingdom Hearts musical themed minigames as well. That's not the only one.
You're going to the world of Frozen, right? So maybe you just have to let it go if it is there.
It's not impossible, honestly. That could be their thing. It's like, hey, let it go in there. It's so popular.
Yeah, I mean, it's a musical thing. Well, I think one of my favorite games that I can't stand, and I think all of us here, everyone who's played it, everyone who's played Dark Souls 1, knows the bit in Anor Londo with the Silver Knight archers sitting out there waiting to take away your soul, your life, your hopes and dreams, and reduce you to nothing, because these archers, they just sit there, but the moment you're in range, their great bows fire at you, and if they hit you, you go flying off to your death. And now, when me and Jordan were playing through Dark Souls 1, we did this bit separately because it's bloody stupid, but I failed at least 30 times. At least. And that's not even the worst part. I haven't even got to the thing that happened on my first playthrough. So, to actually make it, you have to run up this ledge, this whole little pathway, go across the side of a building, kill the knight, hop in, and there's a bonfire. Well, I managed all of that, went into the bonfire, I lit it, didn't rest at it, died, had to do it all over again.
No! The amount of times those feelings happen in Dark Souls 2, where it's just like you get to a point and then you just screw up and it's all lost. It's like, damn it! But Anor Londo is, that's like one of the worst, because it is like deliberately annoying, that section. The super minimalistic beams, just a single walk path that would like throw you off, and they're shooting at you from all kinds of angles and blocking off and all kind of crazy shit. It's like, god damn it!
You hate it, but you love it because it's so memorable.
Yeah, it is memorable.
No, I think it's just pure hatred, Jordan. It's like everything about Dark Souls is
rage
awesome,
quit.
But, I did rage quit. And not to talk about Ornstein and Smough, they're up there as well. But it's
they're close there.
The Soul series is known for this stuff, but I think that is the most infamous one of pure bullshittery.
Yeah.
You took an arrow to the knee, except it took your knee and your life.
Yeah, the arrow went through my knee, took off my leg, and threw me into the abyss. So, everyone's favourite games is something you can't stand. I'm sure everyone has something like that in their heads of this game is awesome, I love it, but stuff that one part. Yeah, so to move on from that was a fun little topic, I enjoyed that. We have to talk about issues of another universe, another world, a multiverse. And because we're joined by Jordan of whichever one I said earlier, 48F, this week we have an interesting one to solve, because we're visiting a world called Earth 53GA, a world where the console wars actually happened in military conflict. You know, guns and bombs and stuff?
Right, yeah. Full on, the military, yeah.
Yeah, and unexpectedly, Sega won. Think like Avengers Civil War. You played all the sides, it's just Sega's the only one left. And so...
Sega, of all the companies.
Sega of all the companies. Sega. He's so devious, he snuck in, and now they rule with an iron fist. Sonic and the various characters, including Vector the Crocodile, are revered as gods. If you don't believe in them, that's just treason and heresy, so...
Who's Vector the Crocodile?
Look, he's a crocodile. His name's Vector. He looks kind of cool. He's kind of got a... he's got a cool outfit on and stuff, but yeah. So, in this multiverse, we're here to assist the Resistance, to help their morale in their quest to defeat Sega. And to do this, each of you must give the Resistance a game to remember what video games could be, and tell them exactly why it is great. And if chosen poorly, results may vary.
I shall go first, because Jordan went first in the non-multiverse specific question.
That's true.
So a game that emphasizes... So I just want to check, in this multiverse, did we get to a certain generation? So is this the PS1? Are we all at the PS4, or are we PS7?
We can show them... We're basically bringing a game from our universe to show them, this is how good it is on our side. So they can realise,
Well, I don't know about my universe.
With that consideration given, I still will play a nostalgic pullback as opposed to going with something modern. And I shall bring the start of a series that became so complicated and so convoluted, but also immediately interesting, and created a legendary developer and director, and that I will bring forth Metal Gear Solid 1 on the PS1.
Wow, that's an interesting game to bring. Alright, so before we get your results, I need to hear what Jordan's bringing to the table.
Well, for me, instead of going single player, I'm going more co-op. I'm going to one of the great classics that I thoroughly enjoyed of the modern but not modern series on the Xbox 360. That's modern enough. Castle Crashers. One of the epic games of epicness that's so silly and so crazy that you're knights, you run around and kill stuff with your powers and stuff, and yeah, it's fun.
Okay, so...
Sega wouldn't know what hit them.
So are you ready to hear your results?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so for you, Jordan, the rebel leader laughs very hard. He throws your game onto the ground, stamps on it, and yells out, mediocre, and pulls out his favourite game. It's Sonic Boom. And for a whole 5 minutes, he goes into why this is a fantastic game, and your game will not help them.
Oh yeah, the redesigns are fantastic in that universe. They suit way better, yeah.
And the guards remove you from his tent, tossing you into the dirt. We don't know what happens from there on. Are you okay with that, Jordan? How are you coping?
I find Han Solo after surviving in the pit as Chewbacca, and we go on an adventure.
This is secretly Star Wars, and so for you, Russell, the rebel leader gets on his knees. He praises you for bringing them hope. He goes on about the Last of Us' terrible game that instantly gave him visions of defeat for about 35 minutes. Of like, you just kept on about Castle Crashers, it just wasn't working for him.
He's not the prime universe, though, so we couldn't trust that Jordan to begin with.
No, because, I mean, just pure inferior. So, and so we come back to this thing years later because we have the power, and the rebellion has succeeded. The Grand Cathedral of Sonic is torn and burned to the ground, and in its place they've started to build a shrine to Snake.
Kept you waiting there.
And after all, history does repeat itself. So that's the multiverse. I hope you've enjoyed our visit to 53GA, the Sega world. It was a great adventure, that.
I got covered in debt.
Yeah, and we don't know what happened to you. We'll have to come back to this universe at some point later, but right now, we have to leave the multiverse, and we have to talk about something of our reality, which is the news of this week. So this week, the news has been a bit underwhelming for the most part, and a bit disappointing in some regards. But to kind of kick it off, we've seen THQ Nordic's Darksiders III reveal itself with a release date of November 27, showing off new gameplay, a collector's edition, developed by
multiple
Gunfire
collector's
Games.
editions.
Multiple collector's editions. We'll get into that in a moment. But now it's made by Gunfire, which is made by a bunch of ex-developers of the original Darksiders games. And so to kind of jump straight in, like, the collector's editions are pretty wacky, wouldn't you say, Russell?
It's one of those ones where it has multiple collector's edition because the developers make pretty much all the bank when it comes to those editions. So the bigger it is, the more money you're making. So the immediate red flag is like, how big a concern is this franchise to them? Where it's like, we don't think it's probably going to do amazingly well, so we're going to have to make multiple collector's editions to potentially appeal to the hardcore fans of this series and potential collectors and that kind of thing by doing multiple editions. But the editions themselves, the price tag is where it gets particularly crazy, especially for what these figures seem like they are. Just because you didn't explain, Mitchell, we have the two, and the first one is pretty much the generic what you expect with these games, where it's like you get a collector's edition, it comes with a figure, art book. Was it soundtrack? I can't remember if there was a soundtrack.
I don't remember either, but I'd assume maybe.
The usual kind of package where it's like some kind of art book, some kind of DLC code, some kind of statue, and then normally some kind of extra piece of knick-knack or whatever, and then say occasionally soundtrack, steelbook, the official steelbooks, it's always the steelbook trademark. So that's pretty generic. But then it's the Apocalypse Edition, which I believe was the name, and that one is where they go all out and they add. Yeah. So the collectors is just Fury, the main character from this game, the Horseman Fury.
You got Fury, yeah.
And in the Apocalypse Edition, you get all the same stuff, but you also get deaths. The Horseman, and War Horseman from the first and second game.
And the funny thing is, you don't get the fourth Horseman, But you do get 4 statues.
And that's the weird thing. They add Fulcrum, which is kind of like the what are you buying guy from Resident Evil. He's like the salesman guy. He sells you shit in the game. Things. That already is like the biggest mistake to me. I'm like, oh, you got to be kidding me. That you don't include the... It seems like such a big mistake. They go, well, you're going to include the 3 Horsemen, and because we haven't worked out the final one yet, or haven't designed him or whatever, we're going to put this guy instead. It's like, oh, what? What are you doing?
Isn't the 4th one Plague or Famine or something?
They've renamed it to Strife, because I think it's Pestilence and
like...
Famine are the other 2 that aren't War and Death, but they've renamed the Fury and... Yeah, they've renamed the Fury and Strife because it's more, I think, straightforward and easy to use.
Yeah, instead of like finding out this Plague thing, but as the collector's editions... They get pretty pricey, especially in Australian dollars.
I don't even know if I don't think I've seen EB. Have you seen EB?
No, it's not on EB. I had to check just
but
it's just
it's got a $3.99 US price tag for the Apocalyptic edition, which is a lot down under.
That's almost the price of a Nintendo Switch
or a decent statue.
That's what I was going to say. My problem being such a huge collector of actually proper like polished stone resin statues to go for this price tag, you're almost there, if not there. And these statues are like 23 centimeter tall, almost certainly plastic. I don't know about the production quality. I don't know who's making them, but it's kind of like I think they're really overcharging, really overreaching with this edition, like a lot.
Oh, I'm pretty sure they'll still sell out of them anyway.
Russell, the statue snob.
Yeah,
a bit, but like I think we're both a bit like that. So the gameplay though, it looks very influenced by a game which we've already spoken about. It's got a little Dark Souls in it, by the look of it, in terms of like how much damage your character is taking. The currency you're spending is literally souls. I'm unconvinced whether you lose it when you die, but this is all shown under IGN first, so obviously they're not going to show in the big PR thing. It's like, oh, here's death, not the character, but you die. It's for the most part, I would say the gameplay looks a bit bland. At least in terms of the atmosphere and like the enemies, it feels a bit empty.
I can understand where you're coming from, Mitchell, under the context of it looks semi-dated in the sense of it looks like a PS3 Xbox type game. Not graphically, I don't think, but certainly in terms... Yeah, in a conceptual level, where it's like it's not doing anything that's breaking the mold or doing something significantly different. It's just doing stuff we've seen before. So it's not that kind of game where you're going to go, oh man, I was amazed by this scene or anything. I don't think that's going to happen. But what I'm seeing in the functionality... I'm not disliking it. It doesn't look horrible to me. It's borrowing what Darksiders was, which was kind of like a Zelda-esque hack and slash type game. It is like
kind of evolved into like Dark Souls is kind of like Dark Souls obviously took from Zelda, but and now they kind of taking from Dark Souls.
To me, it was basically Zelda fused with God of War. I think was the direction they were trying to take the original game, where it's like the fluidity of the combat in God of War and how the hack and slash aspect of it, but then having the dungeon-themed locations. If you get an item and that item helps you through the same location, the whole location to get to a final boss. That was kind of like how Darksiders work. But the problem I had between the two games was that Darksiders 1 and 2, I preferred Darksiders 2 a lot more. I think that's not the general consensus, but I liked it way more because it wasn't focused on the apocalypse that was set before, and it had a much more fantasy setting that appealed to me, actually. Very Blizzard-esque is the way I'd put it.
I would agree with that, yeah.
I only played the first Darksiders, and I found that to be quite repetitive and boring the whole way through.
And that's where I'm trying to point to what Mitch thinks with this game. This game is also set during the apocalypse on Earth, and because of that, you have that aspect of, oh, this is like a destroyed city. It's reminds me of Code Vein. Code Vein's got the same problem.
Oh, yeah. It looks better than Code Vein graphically.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. Yeah, it does look better than Code Vein. But it has that problem where it's like, when it's so similar, and it's just like, here's a city that's destroyed, and there's just like stuff coming out of the walls and goo or whatever, you guys are just not as cool as if you set in like this crazy fantasy location, you know?
Well, that's kind of the environment, because it's set during 1 and 2, so they kind of really have to use the like... That's the atmosphere. That's how they've stuck to it, and that's where they have to stay with it. I mean, Darksiders 2 went way out into like some kind of... It didn't actually have any like city ruins for a big chunk of it. You're in this whole other region.
Yeah, it became very loot focused as well, because it was like everything dropped weapons, and then you randomly generated weapons, and then you equip them. So that was like another new focus, which I don't believe is a part of this game, not that I've seen at least.
Not that we can tell just yet.
But the combat's very precision based too. They've dropped the more fluid hack and slashy flying around type stuff that they used to have. Now it's more like precision attacks. You target one thing at a time. Very Dark Souls-esque.
Yeah, with a dodge, and I noticed there's like a good dodge timer. If you dodge at the right time, you're empowered.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, you can kind of just see the things working in there, and I guess, before we kind of move on from talking about Darksiders 3, are any of us going to play this game?
I still haven't played the second, so probably not.
Jordan's lack of commitment to the series so far is like a no. But for me personally, like I enjoyed the vision they wanted to create, where it's like there's going to be 4 games with each of the Horsemen. I can't remember if they said 5 games, but they wanted the 4 and then do a final one with all 4 of them.
Yeah, I'd say the biggest thing is that after THQ died and Vigil Games went down with it, it's really good to see them, like, they've come back together, they have built the 3rd one, they're not abandoning this franchise, which is really good to see, whereas, like, they had this vision, it's like a studio closes, you'll never see it, but THQ Nordic clearly had some kind of belief in that this IP is worth having.
Committed to the apocalypse.
But yeah, to answer the question, yes, I do plan on getting it. I don't know if I'll get any of the crazy additions on top or anything, but I don't have high expectations though. Like, I want to get it, but I'm not expecting it to blow me away. Like, I'm sure it's going to be a swimming with sevens, kind of average type game. But yeah, it could be good. It could be really better than that, but I'm not sure.
It could blow you away.
I think it looks alright. It depends how it kind of reviews at the time and if I'm interested, and depending what else is out. I mean, there's a few games coming out around that time that might get in the way, like Smash Bros. And a bunch of other games. For the most part, don't see it playing it. I'm very happy for the fans of the franchise that they have it back. So, to move away and leap from this dark side into an interesting development this week, because on episode 1, we discussed indie games and how the Switch is a really good place for it. Just 2 weeks later, we have to talk about this thing where in the what's it called? The general Q&A meeting Nintendo have, their senior executive officer, Susumaru Tanaka, I probably pronounced that awfully. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for saying your name wrong, but he said that Nintendo, the future of the company, is looking to release around 20 to 30 games on Nintendo Switch per week. And we definitely expect to see some great games among them, which was the end of their quote. So it's just like...
That was the confidence level they had. It's like, there'll be some great games there. Some.
Yeah, there'll be some. We expect to see some great games among them. So it's just like, okay, Nintendo.
Once a month, one good classic.
Along with 29 others. So it's just like... We were just saying, like, on last week's episode, I know for a fact, Russell, we said and agreed that if they added too much games, the indie, like... thing they've created kind of gets thrown underneath a wave of all these games that keep coming out, exactly like Steam, which is not a marketplace you want to emulate if you want people to find indie games and be a place for indie games to like flourish.
And the thing is, though, I actually think it's even worse than that, because even though Steam has way more games than the 20 to 30 a week that this Nintendo wants to be doing, Nintendo does not have a good enough store to cater for that many games coming out a week. They don't have like a recommendation system or like comments or like, oh, this game's good for this reason, or that top of the pack based on like community feedback or any of that kind of stuff. It's going to be like probably a shit show when it's just like there's just all this shovelware coming out, and then maybe there's an occasional Shovel Knight or an old game that's coming now to Switch that wasn't on there previously or something. Like it's not great, honestly.
It's not a good look. So John, I'll ask you a question. Do you think Nintendo... Do they think they can actually deal with this better than other stores? Do they think, like, they're Nintendo, they can pull it off? Whereas, where Steam has failed, do they think Nintendo can succeed?
Well, not looking at Steam, but looking at other consoles, Xbox and PlayStation, if they go the similar route to how they do it, then they shouldn't have a problem. It's just going to be the matter of if you have too much at once, you're going to overload everything.
Yeah, and
there'll just be too much information.
So you truly believe that, like, it'll just be purely overcrowded and they'll be like... That'll just be too much.
They need to have featured games, and then just the list A to Z.
They do have a top list, but like I think PlayStation and Xbox have also failed in this regard with helping discovery of these games, because you don't hear indie developers saying like how the PS4, being the biggest console at the moment, their games are not selling as well there as they are on the Switch, which is just an interesting statistic.
Yeah, the only one I can think of that definitely helped it big time was Rocket League, and that's because it was a PlayStation Plus launch exclusive that like put it on the map because people got it for nothing.
Well, you could always say that although PlayStation seems to be the top console right now, people may start to make the switch if more games go onto the Switch. It just depends on how they do it.
That's their intention.
Yeah, that's the intention they want. Like the reason why they're calling them Nindies, they're doing the whole indie focus thing. They're really trying to go like, this is a place, and they're really trying to look after indie developers, which is the thing you can see them trying to push in. What every indie developer keeps saying is just like, Nintendo really try and make sure the games work there, and it's like, give them the support they need.
The volume at which they're proposing is just like, it just seems too much at the moment. It's definitely an interesting where they want people to go, oh, there's actually so much content on Nintendo Switch to play. But I think it could hurt them in the long run. But at the same time, I don't know, because so often the games come through. Like, if it's a good game, it somehow gets discovered. Like, Hollow Knight gets discovered, you know. It's like, it might not matter in the long term, because even as you said, like, the PlayStation and Xbox don't do it greatly, but they still have those games coming out. Like, you still see them. They do appear. It's not just like, it's all shovelware. Like, yeah.
The way I see it, it's better to have a big list of games than only a few games that are great.
So you definitely agree with Nintendo then?
Well, they've done a lot of crazy things already. Like, for example, the Nintendo Labo out of cardboard.
Labo.
So I'm sure they can manage this, Labo.
Yeah, I remain unconvinced that this is going to be a good idea for anyone, because, like, Nintendo have their key games. It's like Zelda and Mario were both the highest Metacritical games of that year. It's just like, they have the best rated exclusives of this generation, like, so far. But to kind of move to a question I wanted to ask is, like, to both of you, is like, do you reckon this would hurt the brand? Which, it's a company that once had a seal of quality on the box for releasing its games. They had to meet that seal of quality, but now they're kind of going like, we're okay if there's only a couple great games. Do we think the new era of gaming has kind of shifted Nintendo's, like, the way they used to be to how they are now? They're not really the same thing.
I don't think it will hurt their brand reception. I think Nintendo is such a nostalgic company for pretty much everyone. Most gamers have some connection to Nintendo in some form that I think even they would have to scrap so badly for people to just go, I'm not interested in Nintendo anymore. People love Mario and Zelda so much, they just weren't willing to commit to the shit Nintendo was pulling on that console. But it's not like they dislike the franchise, and it's proof because they just re-released pretty much every single one of them on Nintendo Switch, and people are buying them and eating them up.
And they're going to still keep releasing them.
And it's just, sometimes Nintendo has crazy ideas like the Labo that are just weird and unusual. But I think Nintendo's brand is pretty much one of the strongest, if not the strongest gaming thing on the planet. And even then, I think Nintendo is taking interesting ideas recently to make it stronger, with the theme parks being built, with Illumination, Mario movie. Like, they are going out of the mobile get phone stuff.
Yeah,
they're really going out of the way
their
to change.
zone.
Yeah, and to really put brand, like, really show Nintendo is the biggest thing, and it should be the biggest thing, and we want it to be.
Yeah, and let's just hope this... Like, I just want to see Nintendo keep going strong. I want to see it being a great place for indie games. I just hope they're smart enough to realise how to do this properly. And for the most part, we've seen them doing it in an excellent way, and we just hope they kind of continue it like that.
Yeah, honestly, I don't see that they're going to have any problems with this. It's just going to be maintaining the amount of games, because eventually you're going to hit a point. If you're releasing 30 games a week, you're going to eventually hit a point that you've got so many games that there's not enough games to add.
If Steam's any indication, it's that games will release. There will be these games, because they don't need to be they don't need to be top quality. They could be just rehashes of Unity assets. They could be stick figures. They could be anything, as long as Nintendo filter that shit out of it and don't have games like Life of Black Tiger.
I don't think they will. I really do think Nintendo's going to release everything. No. They're just going, we'll take it all.
Let it all in. But yeah, so we're a bit concerned about Nintendo doing this, and I mean, one of us isn't that really, but for the most part, let's just hope they know what they're doing, and this doesn't destroy the goodwill that they've been working for indies. Alright, well, that's about it for the Gaming Booth podcast for this week. I'd like to thank Jordan and Russell for joining me.
No problem. It's Multiverse Jordan, don't forget that.
Multiverse Jordan, sorry. I obviously couldn't mix that up because it's obvious.
No.
Thank you for joining us, Jordan. We will visit your world eventually.
You may not want to.
I'd like to say thank you for joining us for this episode, and hopefully we'll see you on the next one. Goodbye. Russell, the statue snob.